Hey everybody, welcome to the Marquez Says Show. I'm your host, Marquez Mosier, and this is my co-host, cohort, and eldest son, Austin Jordan. He and I always seem to bring out the feisty side of each other, and it leads to some very spirited conversations. There's never really any one topic. We see the world from many different perspectives, and sometimes we agree, and sometimes we don't. Either way, it gets very interesting, so sit back, relax, and have a bit of fun at our expense as we explore some of the most unexpected perspectives you'll ever hear about the world we live in. So, let's get started. Hey everybody, Marquez Mosier here for the Marquez Says Show. I'm your host, Marquez. This is my co-host, cohort, and co-conspirator, Austin AJM Jordan. How y'all doing? It's been a minute. You know, I'm going to talk like the young kids do.
So, welcome to the brand new season where apparently we've decided to sell out, I guess, is what we're doing now.
Yes, it looks like because our budget has gone up. And the quality of our backgrounds for our studio shots have improved dramatically.
So much so. We are now recording in very different places.
Actually, we've done one. I know but we did one last year, and I think you were. Oh no, that was actually you were not at this new place. Obviously, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You were in Tennessee, but you were not in your new place. So yes, you're right. And
yep.
I was here, but yeah, look at that, moving on.
Is he ever really anywhere though?
Up. Well, I could prove that you're not there. But we'll do that another time.
Okay.
No,
all right.
I'm going to save it.
What are we talking about today?
Oh, my God. I have a list of things. But first and foremost, I'm going to give you the floor. Because if you're in Tennessee, we have to talk about the Big TN. What the hell is going on with you? What the hell is going on with the legislature over there?
So where to start?
Well, that's enough time for that. So we're going to move on to the next subject. No.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's beyond crazy.
So, the good news is that the two expelled members were reinstated. They got sent back because their districts, interim position,
which is great. I mean, I'm glad that they actually they honored the will of the people.
Yeah, well, because, it went to a vote again, and then they got voted in again. Which is so good for the communities rallying behind those folks. But yeah, to see something like that happen, and to do so, and do something so decidedly un-American a week after a school shooting, where everybody's eyes are already on the city, just seemed like a massive miscalculation. It's actually a stupefying decision.
Absolutely. Going broader picture, and we touched on this, which is one of the reasons why I was like, let's get these podcasts going again. Mm-hmm. The millennials and Gen Z are of an age where they can actually start doing public office. They can start serving. They won't be able to get much done without Gen X's backing or support, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But Gen X is all for it. I know I don't speak for all of them, but I can tell you though, just with the way we grew up and what we've seen and all the other stuff, I would have to say the majority, if not even the quote unquote super majority, is totally behind it. And the biggest reason why nothing happened with us, or so to speak, or with us, one, is we're just coming into the prime of the political career cycle, whatever you want to call it. And let's be honest, baby boomers and all of them have just had a chokehold on power and all of the gerrymandering of the districts, voting suppression. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So this is just the start. This is literally just the start of what we're going to start seeing, where those in power who think they still have power are going to get a rude awakening of, yeah, you kicked me out on Thursday, I'm back on Monday. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, and that's a good. I like the way that you put it, like that. This is the start, and that there's enough voices from the younger community to start pushing back against, uh, like what you said, like the chokehold that so many people have had. We've had conversations about this, and this is where we tend to we
Diverge.
agree, but you're what?
I said diverge.
Yeah, we agree, but also you tend to be more optimistic about this stuff than I do.
Hell yeah.
I think what's this in this particular case actually, it kind of proves what you were thinking though about the optimism and the like when they got expelled, right, and then the community's voting, putting him back in again. That's awesome. That was something that I wasn't 100% sure. I guess I believed that the communities would do that for these people, but I think like the long term effect of like it concerns me in areas like Tennessee, right, which is got Nashville and Memphis. Those are two pretty liberal cities, but then the rest of of Tennessee is very much so not. Not to say that there aren't people in those places that
Right. Just general demographics.
don't lean left. Exactly. So when it's spread so much like that, it makes me concerned. And again, about the young people coming up, right? In a super, rural town, the young people may not end up diverging from their parents or their families.
You know what'll change that though?
What?
That the Gen X didn't have for definitely for Gen X didn't have, but millennials and Gen Z do.
The
internet and social media. They will see other stuff. They will be able to. They'll be exposed. They will be exposed to those other thoughts and perspectives and other viewpoints that they could not be exposed to when they were just growing up in a small town. When they only saw the people around them in the previous generations, they will see. For example, like what just happened. I mean, not that they would have probably went right back again, but they would see this. They would see what happened and go, oh, that's not what mom says. That's not what dad says. That's not what grandpa, uncle. You know what I mean? I hear them talking about how they were just getting a little bit too full of themselves and we need to put them back in place and stuff. But then they hear them speak and they hear them talk and they hear them saying the same things that they want to hear. I think that's going to be a big change.
Maybe, but maybe not though, because everything is driven by algorithm. So I'm how do I phrase it? I'm inclined to believe that the young generation, right, or the younger people my age and younger, and maybe even a little bit older, but their social media is going to be filled with whatever they want to see. If they are right-wing people, they're going to see the right-wing version of what actually happened. And obviously there's a left version and there's a left wing and a right wing version of the same thing, and they're not necessarily absolute truths, but the availability of the internet, I'm not so sure that it's going to necessarily have an impact.
Well, this is where I think that
in a drastic way.
I'm putting it back further. I'm talking about the not quite preteens, but to a degree preteens, and then certainly in the teen years when they haven't quite saturated their social media and their internet with the echo chambers that you're referencing. They're still going to be watching influencers. They're still going to be watching pop culture. They're still going to be watching. They're going to get that because of who they are and naturally their age group, and that will lead them to realizing that there's this is extremely stereotypical, but they're gonna. I'll use this example. There's more music than just country. I mean, I always knew about rap, and I like rap, but I also like country because that's what predominantly is heard here. But then they're going to hear, but with all of those influencers, the dances, the just whatever whatever's going on with the social media, whatever that hot pop topic is, they're going to see that and go, oh, there's other stuff. There is other things. Maybe. I use that as a very generic example, but
for sure, yeah.
The echo chambers, in other words, I don't think will be developed yet. so that when they do get to the point where, like you said, when they're in their mid-20s and such, they will have been exposed way more than the previous generation, and certainly much more than the previous generation before that, to different ideas, different things. And quite honestly, I think a lot of it will be that they'll recognize, for example, the Missouri wanting to defund the all the state's libraries because of the fact that some people they're going to be. I think that's going to be a common sense thing of, why would we do that? Like that doesn't sound right. I mean, it doesn't. That's they'll question it a little bit more than just taking it for granted, because that's what they do. So I don't know.
Yeah,
like you said, it's the eternal optimist in me, but I'm not gonna let it go and change now. Yeah. It's got me this far.
It's a good. No, yeah, absolutely, and it's a good thing to have. I share that optimism, but I think a lot of the people in my generation, so not like the teenagers and stuff, but I'm a little ways removed from that now, being 25. I think that a lot of people in my age group feel overwhelmingly pessimistic about things, because we haven't seen, since the day we were born, everybody talked about the shift, right? Everything is going to start to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And in several ways it didn't, and in a lot of ways it's gotten worse. So I think like the idea about like super far right wing ideas, or such as attitudes towards gay marriage or trans people, or
here's
like all that stuff.
Here's the thing for you though, they haven't gotten worse. If it now there may have been. No, wait, hold on, let me finish. There's been steps backwards. But even those steps backwards haven't gone worse than it was, say, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. The difference being, though, is that 15 years and 20 years ago, those people were in corners. They were in shadows, and they were much less vocal and certainly not as visible than they are now. So I do believe there's something to be said about the loud minority as opposed to the silent majority, that there's a loud minority that's going on. And I think abortion may be an excellent example of where that was always a boogeyman that Republicans would use. And then all of a sudden, when they got what they wanted, like the dog chasing the car and actually finally ends up biting the bumper, it's horrible for them. It's horrible because even within the Republican ranks, not obviously the far right, there's overwhelming support for not restricting things, and it shows even in rural states or quote unquote red states, when it comes to a vote, they're losing. It's not going through. So I think that's where I look at and go, things aren't getting worse. They may be taking some steps back, but that's also because we've had such an acceleration. We had such an acceleration, like you said, with gay rights and things like that, where it went from barely anybody wanting, same-sex marriage, and within a decade, it became the law of the land. I mean, that's a huge, huge change.
Yeah, but I mean, I think objectively, the overturning of Roe versus Wade objectively proves that it's gotten worse. Like, it's not worse than it was, obviously, like in the 60s or something like that. But with it being actually codified law that no longer exists, I would say it's objectively worse.
I don't know if it would be objectively, because again, you're not any worse off than you were before Roe versus Wade was.
Well, I'm not, but somebody who wants to. Well, yeah,
no.
Exactly,
I mean, society technically. So we had 50 years of yes, it got better with that. But here's something that I think that a lot of people don't understand, and it may come back to bite them in the butt, is that if that law and that precedent could be overturned, so could the one with versus the Second Amendment, because that's only because the court decided that the Second Amendment applied to everyday people having the right to bear arms, et cetera, et cetera. It's not. It's almost the same situation where the court could then overturn and go, no. They got it wrong back then. What they didn't know about AR-15s. They didn't know about the automatic weapons, bump stocks, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden,
that's not going to happen with the current Supreme Court.
No, it will not. No, it won't. But I mean though is that there's another example of it may be the. I mean, it's not a blessing in disguise, but it is. There is that other option, the other perspective that it could happen. Again, it's like be careful what you wish for, because they got what they wanted, and I don't really think it's worse off. Well, okay, I guess the other roundabout way of saying this, Austin, is I do think though that states will start coming around to fine. If you're not going to do it federally, we'll do it from a state level. And that wasn't what was supposed to happen. It was all everybody was supposed to just fold, and it was going to be states are going to pass all these laws, which like Florida has, I think Texas has, et cetera, et cetera. But all the blue states didn't, which we would expect. But there's a couple of red states that did not do it. And that's the point of, see, that's where it's going to be a change, because if those red states didn't do it, then all of a sudden, and this brings it all the way back to our topic of young people coming in, all of a sudden, Florida, for example, gets legislators in there and they don't have a supermajority. Like Tennessee, for example, and they start getting people and they won't have, or both Tennessee and Florida, they won't have those supermajorities that they have. And all of a sudden it'll be chipped away to the point of, no, we are going to allow, the abortions or the right, pro-choice, et cetera, et cetera. It'll take time. Yeah. But that's the point. Like the two Justins from Tennessee, that's, they're extremely eloquent, excellent public speakers. Yeah. That is going to change things. People on the fence are going to listen and go, damn, they sound like they know what they're talking about. And hopefully we move forward from there.
Yeah, I hope so. I want to believe everything you're saying. I think that I'm more and more believing there's less people on the fence.
Oh, I don't believe that at all. I think there'll always. I think more than ever that you've got 25%, maybe 20 to 30% on that far right, and then you've got the same 20 to 30 roughly percent on the far left, and everybody else is still in the middle that will vote. And let's be honest, people will vote essentially to whatever's best for them. A lot of these subjects and a lot of these issues and all this stuff, what it comes down to when they go into the voting booth, they are almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone is going to vote purely for what they think is going to best help them.
No, yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what voting more or less should be about. Like, you shouldn't vote against somebody in their own, and somebody else's rights or whatever. Like, you shouldn't do that. But voting is, supposed to be from your perspective. I'm not trying to necessarily coach anybody on how to vote or, what they should believe or say or anything. But actually, I think that's an interesting, I kind of want to go down that path, because I think that that's an interesting conversation to have is... Oh, go ahead.
I can tell you, what you're going with this path and stuff, I can tell you that I don't always vote as far as what's going to be best for me. No. If it's going to be all things more or less even, or it's going to be a very little effect on me, I will absolutely vote for the greater good. Even if it is slightly even if it is slightly worse for me, because I have that impression that we're all we are all connected, and that's unfortunately, I don't know if that's the path you were talking about, but some people, we need more of that. We need more people
going,
hey, my life isn't that bad. I mean, I can, it's okay. I am going to vote. In my case, or as even older people, it's kind of like abortion isn't really going to be something that affects them. Certainly not probably in a first person kind of way. So if you really don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, maybe you should just go ahead and err towards letting people do what they want to do. That kind of perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I'm with you on that same side of I'm voting for the greater good. But it is an interesting concept to think about, though, because voting is by nature a relatively singular thing that somebody does, and to voice their opinion of what they would like to see out of their government or whatever voting system. In the context of this conversation, so it's interesting though, because then you start thinking, I don't know, maybe it's just more interesting in my head than it is to talk about. But that concept, though, it's extremely singular. It should be individual. In fact, it's something that usually people say you don't need to talk about who you're voting for or anything like that. But at the same time, is there a social responsibility to the larger group when you're voting?
Well, actually, and I think too much is this day and age. There's the tribalism that they talk about. People aren't even thinking about it. They're like being told who to vote for. They're being told
exactly,
who the boogeyman is, and then they go, "Oh my God, I've got to vote against that." And, and it's did you stop and think about it? I mean, did you even take a second to go, "Wait, hold on"? Okay, I mean, the Fox News, quote unquote, I use that term loosely. The defamation suit is a great example of it's plain as day. I mean, it is undisputable that they were only going for the dollar, and they were literally telling their viewers, and still are, what the viewers want to hear and see when it's not what they actually believe. And and that's fine if you weren't actually, like, if you were as an entertainment standpoint, or if you were just upfront about it. But when you're bringing it to, when you're saying that you're actually like a news organization, I mean, having opinion and all that stuff and having a slant, that's one thing. But when you're distributing the lies, when they're quantifiable lies, that's not subjective. These are not opinions. This is
exactly.
So when something happened and you're like, no, it actually didn't. No, that's not what happened. That is not the truth. That's different.
Right. It's a provable lie. Exactly. That stuff is so funny to me. That whole lawsuit, and then the Fox News more or less choosing to ignore talking about it. Like, from last I heard, their position was they won't talk about it on their news outlets because of like oh, it overlaps, it's a conflict or whatever, so they're choosing to ignore it. But what's so annoying about that is the majority of people that watch Fox News only get their news from Fox News.
Yep.
So it's a calculated decision to not talk about it, obviously, on Fox News, because a lot of these people don't even know. I had a conversation with somebody who's like, "Oh, they're being sued because of this," and then and then you explain to them, "Yeah, well, this is why," and like this, this is the evidence. This is the Murdoch's in his deposition. This is what he said. All that good stuff. And they just don't care. They just don't care. They're like, "Oh, this sounds like a witch hunt. It sounds like it's coming from the whatever."
Yeah, because you know why, Austin? What's the hardest thing to do in the world?
Yep.
I mean, it's so simple. It is literally so simple that the reason we have all of this and the reason we still have to deal with all of this is because people just don't want to say, "Well, crap, I was wrong about that. Oh, I got bamboozled. Oh, they were lying to me, and I believed it." I mean, they did. It's literally just that.
Yeah, it is. And the scary part about that, I think, is the stronghold. It's a pretty large amount of people like that bought into it so heavily, and made it like their entire identities. And people on the left do it too. I'm always very critical of that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Just in the context of but this with Fox News, it's not going to happen. They've dedicated the past 8 years of their life to this image. Can you imagine walking back all of that? It's sad,
very
really.
hard to do.
It's extremely sad because they were sold a lie. You prove it's a lie. Continue to choose the lie because somehow that's easier and less painful than admitting that you were lied to.
Yeah, they can go into the psychological aspects of it too, because it's proven with all the different, not prejudices, but biases. All the biases and how you I'm blanking on the one where when you get new information and it doesn't fit, and you can either choose to try to make it fit, reject it, or
I mean, if it just doesn't suit your, I can't remember. Yeah, but if it doesn't suit your argument, but that's exactly what's going to happen. And in some ways, in not all cases, but in some cases, it just inflames it even more. It just dig their heels in even more. And be like, see, they're out to get us. They're out to get us.
It's and this is one of those things that will be nice when again, speaking of the topic of just the youth that is coming up with the elections and such, this is what those Republicans that have broken free, like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and things like that, even some of the older ones that are rats. I'm blanking on his name, and he ran for president. And then
Mitt Romney.
No, not that one. The other one. He was. We both like him, and I can't even believe it. I can't remember his name. But even Mitt Romney is a little bit of a. This isn't conservatism. I mean, it's actually
Mitt
sad.
Romney's like big on. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Mitt Romney's like big about that. He's like one of the largest voices in opposition to all the Trumpism and all that stuff.
Kasich.
Yeah,
that's who I was talking
yes,
about before.
yeah. John Kasich.
Where it's really like it's almost sad because you're almost looking at it as an independent. I'm starved for the days of when you knew where the other side stood on principles, on their agenda, things like that. Which you still do, obviously, with like conservatives and even, the liberals, blah, 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 whatever,
Sure.
moderates and stuff. Mm-hmm. But when you have this, we just want to own the libs. We just basically want to, we have some power, so we're going to use it. Like, we have a super majority, so we're going to kick out those two guys. Like, that is not principle. That is not any sort of ideology. It's not. Well, I take it back. In some cases, it's racist ideology. Sometimes it's prejudice ideology, sexist ideology. Yes, it is an ideology, but it's like it's not serving anything. You're just a big group of bullies. I mean, that's all it is. You're not.
Yes. Exactly. That's a really good way. The bullies in the GOP Tennessee state legislature. To be honest, it kind of boils down to this. I've been trying to be a little bit more measured in the conversation, but I think this is a good point to kind of stop doing that. They're bullies and they're spineless. Like, the fact that they're going to have to sit in those rooms with the people they kicked out is bringing me so much joy. And I do hope that they feel dumb. I do. I hope that they reflect on this and feel like, wow, that was kind of stupid. Now the majority, not only did they polarize the left-leaning people in Tennessee, they did it to everybody that's not super hardcore Republican in the country, like because of how nationwide that it got. So I genuinely hope that they realize how dumb they look. I hope they realize that the nation sees how dumb they look.
Well, their strategists will. I guarantee you, all their like campaign strategists, the PR people and stuff, they will look and go, "Yeah, that didn't go over right. That did not go over the way we wanted it to."
The sucky part is just like how the communities put back the two expelled members. Their communities will probably put back the same people when it's time for them to run. The idiots, the bad GOP or whatever. Some people think all of it's bad. I don't know if I'm getting closer. It's getting harder, but
that's it. When people wanted to ask about is there three parties? There is three parties. There really is. There's I mean, a lot of it comes down to the Christian nationalists. I would if I have to group them together, because those are the ones that want to ban the books. They're the ones that want to ban the women's rights to choose, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yes, it spills over into what conservatives used to say, but conservatives weren't all out about shutting down libraries, or, for example, using the government to punish corporations because they didn't agree with them. That is anti-conservative. That is
absolutely.
So there is three parties, really. There's a very small conservative party. There is this huge Christian, quote unquote, nationalist party, and then, or you could call it Trumpers, whatever. It's a lot of people that just want to get in on the power struggle, or not the power struggle, but the spoils of power, and then Democrats. And I don't want to hear people saying, well, the far Democrats and all the wokesters and stuff. That's BS. Yes, it's possible that you can go too far with that stuff on the left. But technically, it's actually not going too far from an ideological standpoint. It's just the way they're enacting it. Because guess what, people? Sure. We're going to end up there whether you like it or not. I mean, whether it's 5 years, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, I will not believe that 20 years down the road we still have bans on gay marriage or bans on women's right to choose, or the fact that we're still going to be, we'll still be racist, unfortunately, because that's just going to take a really long time before. But you can't tell me 20 years from now that all this stuff that people are saying, wokeness, CRT, learning about history and Black history and the true origin, all that kind of stuff, it's going to happen. You're foolish to think that it's not going to happen. And if you're trying to stand in the way of it, you're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, you're absolutely on the wrong side of history. I would like to think that in 20 years that would happen. But honestly, I don't know. Like, I think that I think this is a large part, and this is maybe going to be a little bit controversial, is like, I think that people that identified as Republican going back to, I don't know.
You know what? Hold on 1 second. Hold that thought. We're going to take a short break right here, and when we come back, we're going to hear Austin's rest of his thoughts. All right, we are back. Okay, so Austin, you were saying you were thinking about unloading on the Tennessee people.
No, not unloading on Tennessee people. Just
not the people. The legislature. Yeah, I meant the legislator that kicked them out.
I was actually going to speak to like more so just in general Republicans nationwide.
Oh, okay.
Since roughly maybe the 80s, what I hear so often is this wasn't how it used to be. This wasn't how it used to be. And honestly, it's kind of bullshit. Like a lot of this stuff
I got to stop you there. No. Actually, well, okay. I'm sorry. This is an interruption that's actually partially right, correct, and partially not. But I've actually seen videos. I've seen videos of the prominent Republicans of the 80s, like George W. Bush and George H. Bush. You know what I'm talking. First Bush and Reagan and some of those guys when they were talking about
they were talking about a good guy.
No, hold on. When they were talking about immigration, when they were talking about the school stuff, when they were like school shootings or just general Second Amendment and things like that.
Yeah.
And they held to their conservative beliefs, but it wasn't anything like what they. Right, but they weren't anything like today. They would never have thought about banning, like shutting down libraries. They would have never thought about doing some of the things that like DeSantis is doing, right now.
Yeah.
So
I agree on that.
That's what I mean. By the way, that's what I'm.
Agreed. Yeah, but that's not really the point. The point is that they still probably, maybe not George Bush, but Reagan certainly. He did not like trans people. He did not like the gay community. Ignored AIDS. Just all this stuff. It's the same types of thing that we're seeing today, except I do believe that I guess Reagan was more measured and understood that there was more to the whole of a nation versus his view. And this was what I want to do. I'm going to make the rule of the land. Or the law of the land, rather.
I was going to say, I think that's the difference. Is that yes, he held those beliefs personally. He did not push that when he went. Yeah, I mean, he didn't push it over the top. He would hold. Exactly. He would hold status quo, but he wouldn't necessarily push towards like all the anti-trans shit that's going down.
Right, but my point being, in a radicalized landscape that we see now, they can get away with it. Would Reagan have, in today's day and age, knowing that he could probably get away with enacting certain things and saying certain things he'd want to say, would he do it? Because now there's a certain cover.
No.
Why?
Why? He would have been like Liz Cheney. He would have been like Mitt Romney. He would have been one of those people. Now, I say this, I don't obviously know, but he was the voice of the conservatives and stuff. He would have been like he didn't think government was the answer. He thought government was the problem. So I'm pretty sure he'd be horrified to look and go, what the hell is the government doing? Oh my God, the government is sitting, that's why I say that, by the way.
Right. No, but the point, the main point though that I'm trying to make here is that those thoughts, the thoughts haven't necessarily gotten worse. They've just become something that's acceptable to act upon in today's day and age. So ideologically,
well, yeah, that's the point. But that's exactly the point, is that now it's not more acceptable. Well, it's become, well, yeah, in some ways it's become more acceptable. I guess this is where my point was, is that no, it's not gotten worse. It's gotten more acceptable to say these things. It's because people have enabled that.
That's worse.
No, it's not worse, because it's the same. It's the same amount of people. It's the same. It hasn't.
I know, but now you're. But if you're speaking on it, you're saying it out loud. Like, the ideas are bad by themselves, but once those ideas get vocalized, and then just like you're talking about how there's going to be some young people that end up leaning towards the left, there's going to be some young people that lean towards the right. There's going to be somebody that feels disenfranchised and go, hey, wait a minute, that person's not like me. He's the new boogeyman. He's the new bad guy or whatever. And they're going to gravitate to the right as well. But saying these things out loud and how it's become acceptable, I'm not saying we should deplatform. I don't think that's the answer. But just the fact that people feel comfortable in expressing those feelings now, that's worse.
Right, but again, I don't agree with you at all. It's not worse. It's when you hear about it, like, for example, the popular vote for the last election, that would tell you that way more people, millions and millions of people don't feel that way. They don't feel that, the libraries and all the other stuff, that popular vote, while our election isn't, obviously dictated by the popular vote, but it is an indication that it's not the case. You have this, but like I said, it's the loud majority. It is this loud majority that gives this
minority.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Thank you. This loud minority that skews the view, that makes it seem like, oh my god.
Okay, but it doesn't matter if it's coming from a minority if it's influencing actual policy, laws, and legislation. It doesn't matter if it comes from less people, because once those laws become in place, it's affecting everybody, regardless if they wanted that law in the first place or not. It doesn't matter.
I understand that, but these laws are not new. Like, some of these ones that they're enacting, some of these are, I guess when you keep, my problem is when you keep saying worse, it's not like somebody can't sit, we can't have two people, a black and a white, sitting at the same counter.
I know, but I'm not saying it's worse than the 50s. I'm just saying that it's worse than it was 20 years ago.
I wouldn't say that it's quote unquote worse, although some situations might be worse. But 20 years ago, we didn't have gay marriage, legalized marijuana, trans actually
legalized.
It's virtually legalized. I mean, come on, the most states have it legalized. It's much more accepted. Let's put it that way. I mean, but that wasn't 20 years ago. So, I mean, the horrifying things that are happening to trans people, the fact that it's out there and that we talk about it now is better than what it was before, when it was hidden in the shadows, in the dark, and nobody would stand up for them.
True.
And nobody.
Yeah.
So yes, true. It's horrible.
I'm not saying that everything is worse, but there are certain things that are definitely worse.
Like what?
Like Roe versus Wade being overturned. That is a quantifiable way to show like how something has moved backwards.
Yeah, okay, backwards. I've already agreed with you with that, though.
No, I know, but that's my point. My point isn't that like America is worse than it's ever been. That's not what I'm trying to say. The point being, though, and I don't think we should dance around it, and I think it's okay and good to accept it, is that on a all things considered,
podcast.
I don't think it's super controversial. What?
Sorry, All Things Considered is a podcast, or is a segment on NPR.
Got you. All Things Considered, when you start to total out the value of some of the things that have moved backwards, I don't really think it's all that controversial to say that we're not worse off than we were. Fine. Let's say in 2008. Wait, when was gay marriage legalized? 2012? 2011?
During his presidency, so I don't know. But
it was the early 2010s.
There is no way you're going to convince me that like most
Well, I'm
things.
not trying to convince you.
Well, no,
I'm not
but I
trying to
just don't
convince
mean.
you.
I'm just saying I don't believe your arguments to say that we're worse off than we were 20 years ago. You may say
All right,
specific things, very little, like specific items, like Roe versus Wade. Yes, that's actually obviously that's a setback. But do you honestly believe that because so many people in the past 50 years ago were able to get it codified, so to speak, and there's more people now that would believe that it should be? It's
I know,
only,
but it doesn't.
it's only because that you had this quirk of this presidency and this quirk of these justices dying within that window that we're even talking about this. Because
I know, but it doesn't matter how many people believe it's wrong if it's still the law of the land. Like, if it doesn't matter if more people are now thinking more like better or whatever than they did
But it
50
does.
years ago.
It does, because they're the ones that are going to put it back to the way it was. I mean, in a good way. In a good way.
How?
They're going to vote
When?
by the states. By the states. They literally, the states themselves will start. That's why I came back to
Supreme Court. It won't matter if the Supreme Court stays the same and continues to
No, that's
vote and
wrong.
do things the way they will.
No, that's wrong. Literally, because the Supreme Court passed it back to the states. So if all the states, all 50 states said that pro-choice abortion is...
Look, I'll revise my statement. Obviously, it gets better if on a state level or whatever, like if there's better people in those legislations. But the point being that the Supreme Court has the power to even say those things in the first place, the way they're leaning.
But again, I agree. I mean, I do agree with you that there's been steps back. And you could call that, yes, you can say we're worse off. I do agree with that. But without the quantifying, saying that or feeling that it's temporary, is I guess the part that I am more leaning towards saying that.
Of course it's temporary.
Well, then
it's temporary.
Then that's my point about it's. I don't think if you had asked people certain aspects 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 30 years ago, certainly 40, 50, 60 years ago, that if they thought, like people that thought we would never see a black president, there was people that literally thought, truly believed 100% down to their core, we would never have had a black president.
Mm-hmm.
So if that happened, so to say now, that things aren't, that something isn't going to change, or that we're not on a track that, as slow as it may be, moving forward, it is. That's where that's my frustration. I come back with all of these people that are trying to keep the status quo and trying to hold on to their power. You're just stopping the inevitable. Will we ever end up like we're in that utopian state? Of course not. We'll never end up in that utopian state when we shouldn't. That's not plausible.
Right.
But the reality is just like, just like 50, 60 years ago, there were those who believed that we had a better future. And there will always be more people. At some point, there will always be more people that believe that will then turn in and do what they need to do in order for that to happen. I guess that's the train of thought and the mindset that I want to preserve, which is why I push back so hard against you when you say something like we're worse off. It's like I don't want people to believe it's like a self-fulfilling society. If people feel that we're worse off, then they go, well, what's the point? And then they
I don't think that's what happens though. I don't see. I think,
but I do. A lot of people. I think a lot of people do. Look at Fox News.
Yeah, but that's a conscious decision. They're choosing to do that, like very consciously.
No, a lot of it though is not. Like we talked about, they didn't even know. Some people don't even know that.
No. Are we talking about what? Wait, hold on. Are we talking about what Fox News, the people in that corporation, are doing, or institution?
No. I'm sorry. No, I'm talking about the people that are watching them. Like they don't. They blindly follow what they're told by the person because it feeds into their insecurities and such.
Exactly, and they do it because it's comforting. So, what incentive is there for them to stop doing that?
If Fox News didn't feed them, or I should say Fox News, some huge conglomerate, like something that has the power the power of Fox News. Like if it was just OAN or Newsmax, those fringe people where they have a circulation of a couple 100,000 people, like they don't even break 1 million, I think, most of the time on their viewership. If that stayed that way, and there was those people that wanted to feel comfortable, so they lived in those silos, those echo chambers, okay, that's going to happen. That's always going to happen. But this is different when you have this conglomerate, this huge thing that's influencing tens of millions of people. That is what makes a difference. Because if those people had other sources, or if that source didn't exist, they would go with the next best thing. And if that next best thing was milder, wasn't less as radical, it wasn't as extremist and all that stuff, then guess what? They wouldn't think that way. They wouldn't believe that. They would actually start being like, oh, okay, well, maybe we don't need to ban all the libraries. Oh, maybe a woman should shoot. You know what I mean? That's the part about where I say when it's subconsciously versus not. Like, no, they're just following the crowd. They are literally just following the whatever.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
That's true. I agree with that. But logistically, why would that change? I think that's okay. That's the crux of this, right? Is like if it wasn't spoon fed to them, and if they were seeing something different, then yes, maybe they wouldn't follow down that pipeline. But that pipeline exists. Why would it change?
Well, you mean
in
why
its
would
current
they stop
state?
doing it? Yeah. Oh, well, right now, actually, that's I think why Dominion and some of those people are standing so tall and trying to get a judgment or actually go to court and stuff, because it won't change it overnight, but you're chipping away at it, just like you had to chip away at any horrible influence of society. No matter what it was, you had to slowly chip away at it little by little by little. And if you actually can hurt an organization like Fox financially, they may end up having to be, you can break their influence. And if they become less influential, then maybe some of those people do peel off and watch a different news source. Some of them may go even further right, but some of them may also go, oh, well, I didn't like being lied to. Because that's the other part of this, that if it gets out, I do believe that enough people, because we are, quote unquote, I don't feel this personally, but people will say people are self-interested, at heart. They will look and go, whoa. I don't like being lied to. What you did to me, I gave you money. Like, I gave you money, and now you're telling me that it was because it was lies, that you didn't even believe what you were saying. I trusted you. There is that selfishness that people have can be used in a good way, because they will revolt. They will be like, because they do it to anybody, even on the good people. If they find out good people, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, with good people, and they find out they lied to them or that it was dishonest, they turn on them. So that's how it will change. That if you got rid of that, and then now all of a sudden you have less people, and at the same time you've got people like the Justins. Just to kind of wrap this up, because this is probably a good way to wrap and come full circle. They look and go, yeah, that wasn't right. Wait, they broke decorum rules, but they shouldn't have been expelled because they did that. They should have went, what I mean? They could, because people, like some of these people that follow Trump, follow Fox News and stuff like that, they're not all bad. And I think a lot of them
they're
would
not.
actually, when presented with something that makes sense, like the expulsion, like why? Why did they, wait, so they broke decorum, I get it. That means you need to be punished. Sure, absolutely. I don't think anybody is denying that they should have got reprimanded, censured, whatever. But to go straight from, just all the way from nothing or supposed warnings that they got straight to expulsion, that was blatantly wrong. I mean, essentially, it was blatantly wrong.
Yeah, it is blatantly wrong. And there will be some people that see that and can process that, like if it's against what their normal thought would be. But like what you said, though, about the hardest thing to do is admit you're wrong. Mm-hmm. A lot of people aren't going to break from party line. A lot of people aren't going to go. They're going to go, well, that's the consequences. They have to pay it up. And they're not going to think. They're going to ignore the fact that it goes against.
Absolutely, they will always
the
be
votes.
I'm just talking about the people that can be chipped away for example, for them standing up and going, well, this was wrong, and then the committee sending them back, and then the votes.
Yeah.
I would bet they're probably going to win even with greater margins this next time around than they did the first time. Too.
Yeah,
and so what happens if someone else has been inspired by them in a purple, as they call it, a purple district, and all of a sudden you've got another Justin, I'm just obviously using it just not literally, but another Justin in a purple district in Tennessee that sometimes goes either way, where because this happened, they look and go, some of the people voting might go, it was wrong what they did, and I like what this person is saying. I don't like what my party is doing. It's wrong for the government to get involved and start dictating, trying to make decisions over personal decisions. I think there'll be more and more and more of that because I know there will be, but the reason it's going so slow is because of this, these massive media that's basically said, who's your boogeyman and all that stuff. And you're right about the fact that people just sit back and go, yep, that's right. It's their fault. That's the reason why I'm got a crappy life. That's it. And so we're both right, I guess, in the sense of that's exactly what is happening. And I'm hoping that that's exactly what will slowly start changing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I do think it's going to slowly change, hopefully. I question if I mean, I don't know. You can't necessarily make the impossible. If it's impossible, it's impossible. But I think, and I don't know what this will translate to yet, but I think there's a lot of people that are tired of how slow it's moving. And not that they like giving up or that they don't care, but they're becoming angry, and rightfully so. And it kind of makes me feel like okay, it's going to slowly change. That's what I think people get tired of hearing that. It's what it's always said is
because it always happens. Like just because it's not happening fast enough for someone as fast as somebody wants, that sucks. Don't get me wrong, especially for those who are disenfranchised and for those of the ones that are actually feeling the pain and the punishment of these policies and things like that. But there's one undeniable reason to believe that it will change. And for anybody to sit there and go, it won't change, is actually demonstrably wrong because it always has.
Yeah. Yeah. I again, with you, I believe that it will. I agree.
It always has. And as long as democracy, our form of democracy, can withstand these blows that we are going through, especially right now, then that is the guarantee. That is the reason to say that it will get better. And really what it comes down to, if we just accept the premise that it will get better, it flips to what you said about, well, how can we speed that up? And people getting angry and people and stuff like that. Well, guess what? That has a way of sparking revolutions, that's sparking, all of those changes that need to happen in order for things to get better quicker. I think the 80s, you talk about the 80s, I think we became way too compliant. We complacent, sorry. We came way too complacent. And into the 90s, we were way too complacent about our standing in the world, our economy, our political system. It was much more of a, hey, we've reached the pinnacle, let's enjoy this. And that's just foolish. And 2001 came along and went, yeah, you guys should probably rethink that. 9/11, I should say. Literally.
Yeah.
That came along and went, you should rethink that. And like America does, we swang from one aspect. We went all the way to the left about, yes, the government should have these powers and blah, 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 blah. And then realized, oh, okay, that wasn't such a good idea. And then we swang all the way to the right with Obama, blah, 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 blah. And it was kind of like, okay, this is good. That was like the good swing. And then, boom, and then we swing all the way back again, so.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I agree. I honestly, I don't have a whole lot more to to add. I'm like struggling coming up with.
Oh, no. I was thinking, this is basically how to wrap this up for this episode. Because guess what, guys? Everybody out there, next episode, we're going to have a very special topic. We are going to dive deep into Austin's conspiracy theory as to why there is so many train accidents and so much catastrophe happening going on with the animals and the farm stock and what did you call it? The consumption, the government trying to control the consumption.
What? I don't remember talking about this at all. I remember the train. I remember that.
You said you had a conspiracy theory regarding the government is trying to control consumption patterns or something, and that's why there's all these things happening, like the trains, the train wreck.
I didn't say. I don't.
I could have sworn that was in my text that was what you said. That you said it was part of your.
Look. No, I remember. So I do think that the connection of like the trains and all that stuff. I think that is. Like
there is a genuine credence in the government controlling our main consumption. That is a quote from you. There is a genuine credence in the government controlling our main consumption. That is some heavy shit, and I'm going to be excited to get into that.
Oh yeah. I don't. Yeah. I know what that was in reference to now. No. My larger.
No. We don't want to get into it now. We want to. This is going to be good. We want people to.
I'll tear out the way that I would want to communicate that because my brain it's been a long week. My brain is foggy and slow. But for next week or whenever like the next one is. But yes.
Yeah, we're going to try to do for those of you who are tuning back in. For those of you who are tuning back in that would listen to us from before, thank you very much, especially for listening all the way through. And for those who are just new to this is just a tidbit. We're just getting warmed up. We had a pattern going, and if you want to go back and listen to the past episodes, I would highly encourage it because we had all sorts of subjects and sort of back and forths and these dialogues, and we would love to actually get your feedback. Hit us both up on whatever social media. I'm not even going to put it. By this point, you can find us wherever with where I post this and all that good stuff, and let us know if there's topics you'd like to see. And depending on who you are, I mean, maybe we'll get you a special guest appearance. And if you can convince us that it would be
I think we should invite anybody on. Now, I think anybody that expresses any interest in coming on the show automatically gets to come on the show.
I will lean that way, but I will still have final veto. We'll just see because sometimes I don't want that. That could end up horrifically. But then again, it could also be one of the most excellent episodes we've ever had. So you never know.
I think it'd be funny. No, like I say we allow anybody. Or I'm not saying that we allow anybody. Like I'm not saying I don't want like a KKK member. But my point being is if somebody does reach out and says, "Hey, I want to be on the show."
I don't know. I agree. We will definitely entertain it.
I'd be inclined to just be like, okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely entertain that. So in any case, listen to the past episodes. Listen to the new. Obviously, thank you for listening to this one. Let us know feedback, all that good stuff. And
if I may add one thing, this is a very rare episode for us for one very particular reason. Do you know what it is?
No.
Neither one of us raised our voice. I think at any point.
Really?
I'm struggling.
I think I kind of
did. Maybe I'm trying to think of any episode in the past because the majority of them, I'm pretty sure we found something that we hardline don't agree on.
You know why?
This one was this. Because
you've matured. No, because you've matured. You're not the young punk that we used to have to deal with. That's why.
No, that's not why. That's not why. That's so far from the reason.
Okay, those of you go back and listen to the other episodes, and then you can come back and tell us. Tell me, I jest. I mean, there's a kernel of truth to it, but I jest. So, all right, let's wrap this up. Anything else,
let's wrap it up. Thank you, guys. No, I think that's good.
Well, I have an ending to do.
I know. So I think I'm just going to delay you from doing the ending. No, I'm not going to do it. All right, here. I'll let you. He's been the only reason he wanted to start doing these podcasts again is so that he could say his catchphrase and it not be weird. Like
it's weird even when I do it now. So, But
All right.
we should all
Take it away.
think more, care more, live more, and remember. Austin's over there laughing. Usually can get through this without him. Even he laughs every time. But remember, you can change your life.
Start over.
Start over. Oh, I'm gonna do it all. Okay. So think more, care more, live more, and remember, you can change your life. You can change the world, one decision at a time.
Nailed it.
Austin is still laughing. So.
Oh, it's good to be back.
All right, so I know. And last thing, although this is a little bit afterwards, we are gonna definitely try to do these more often than once a year.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.